Hi, welcome to Grow New Plants. So today I have something pretty exciting for me anyway. If you watched any of my videos for any period of time now, you know I use the Rootmaker systems almost everything that I grow. And I followed Dr. Carl Whitcomb. He's the inventor of the Rootmaker system. For years, I started out probably 30 or 40 years ago. I had read one of his books and I did the open milk carton over hardware cloth to grow trees to where the roots grow out through the bottom of the milk carton and through the hardware cloth and prunes the roots. That was the initial testing and stuff that he was doing. I tried that a long time ago. I've been following him for forever and I've read almost all of his books. I've been to one of his field days probably I guess 10 or 15 years ago. It's just an amazing system. And I've kind of been following that. Used the Rootmaker pots almost exclusively. And I've used his pretty close variation of his soil mixes, and I've always used the slow release fertilizer that he uses, but I was never using the micronutrients. The micronutrients are extremely expensive and you have to buy huge amounts of them, so I've never put the micronutrients in. So I did some talking with the Rootmaker people and they sent me a bag of their new Rootmaker slow release fertilizer that has the micronutrients already built into it. So this is it right here. This is one of the two, okay? They have two different versions. They have the Rootmaker 8, which is for the container one. That's what we're gonna mix up today. So that's when you take cuttings or small seedlings and you transplant them up into bigger pots. This is the mix that you put that with. And this is the Rootmaker 8. It's a 17-7-14, and then it has all of the micronutrients already added into it. So it's a one-stop deal. With my mix that I use, I do 25% peat moss and 75% bark mulch, fine ground bark mulch. I think his mix, he uses a little bit of sand. I've not put sand in mine yet. I may experiment with that later down the road, but it's pretty close to his soil mix. So I got this stuff and I'm gonna just mix one up and show you. I have my big videos that show how I make my soil mix. I'm not going to go through all of that already. I've already got a thing of soil mixed up. I just don't have the fertilizer put into it yet. So what I did is I went and made a spreadsheet to convert, because I mix up, all this stuff is per yard. You put 10 to 12 pounds of this stuff per yard of mix. Well, I'm not mixing up yards at a time. I'm mixing up square feet or cubic feet at a time. So I'm going to kind of show you my little chart that I made up on how to convert how much of this fertilizer to put into basically a 10-gallon mix is what mine is. So it's half a 5-gallon bucket of peat moss, 1.5 5-gallon buckets of bark mulch, and that gives you my 25-75 ratio. So it's a 10-gallon mix all put together. So I'm going to show you my little chart real quick on how I converted that to figure out how many, basically what percentage of a cubic yard that 10 gallons is. And before I get too much farther along too, the people at Rootmaker also sent me a discount code. So if you go down and look in the bottom of the description of the video, you'll see a discount code down there for the Rootmaker retail store. And they have this fertilizer available in a 10-pound bag. And then they also have the fertilizer that's specifically for starting seedlings. I think it's the Rootmaker 6. It's a little bit different formulation that's specialized for new seedlings. And this one is specialized more for bigger plants into growing out in containers. And I think there's 6, depending on the one, I think there's 6 to 9 month slow release fertilizer. So they'll last you for a long time once you have them in those containers. But if you go down in the description, there's a discount code now for that and for any of the Rootmaker products. You go to the retail store. This is a 50-pound bag, but you can get a 10-pound bag of this, and you can get a 10-pound bag of the starter fertilizer for seedlings and stuff like that. So what I did is I took a 5-gallon bucket, and it's roughly 0.6 to 0.8 cubic feet in a 5-gallon bucket. So I just went with 0.7, and then a cubic yard is 27 cubic feet. It's 3 by 3 by 3. That gives you a cubic yard. And so then I took 2 5-gallon buckets. If one is 0.7, 2 is 1.4 cubic feet for 10 gallons of mix, which is what I mix up. And then I just figured out what percentage that 0.1 cubic feet is of 27 cubic feet. I know that sounds confusing, but it ended up to being 0.051852. So then I took that and figured out how many ounces are in 12 pounds. So it was 192 ounces. So then I just basically took 192 ounces times the 0.05, let's just call it 0.051, which is the percent of a cubic yard that I have. And that brought me out to 9.95 ounces. So with this mix that I make, I'm gonna just mix up 10 ounces of the fertilizer and call it good. So that's how much I'm gonna put in each one of my mixes of 10 gallons of mix that I make. I'm gonna put 10 ounces of this fertilizer in it. And I'll do the same calculation in another video with the starter mix. I don't need to mix any up right now, but as soon as I mix that up, I'll do the same calculations for that one too. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna get this out of the way. And I just have a scale here, and I have some little portion cups. So I'm gonna put that on there, tear that out to 0. And then we'll get a little bit of our mix here. So that is 1.9. So let's see if I can get that to 2. That's 1.9, so that's pretty close. We'll call that good enough to be in 2 ounces. So if they fill this thing up, I'll just pour them into a baggie to start with till I get my full mix made. So I think if I fill this thing all the way to the top, I'm gonna be right at 0.2, 0.8. So I'll just do a little bit extra on the next one. So there's 4. That'll make up for those. So that's 6 ounces. That's right at 2. So that's 8 ounces. And that's 10 ounces. So what I do is I'll take these, when I have more time, I'll just sit out the next time I do this, and I'm not gonna do it on video. I'll just mix up several bags of this at a time. I'll store this into a bucket. I've got some buckets with screw-on lids I'll put this into, and I'll just make several of these bags up. And then whenever I do a mix, all I gotta do is just dump one of these bags in one of my mix. So let's get the mix up here and we'll throw that in there. Okay, so here's my soil mix. I've already mixed up the peat moss and the bark mulch. So basically all I gotta do now, take my 10 ounces of my Rootmaker fertilizer. I'll dump that in there. And I'll do, like if you watch my other videos, I put the lid back on this thing. I take it and I just flip it over several times on the ground. It mixes all this in. So basically all I'll do is just mix this fertilizer in good, and then this mix is ready to go. So anyway, the Rootmaker systems, if you haven't tried them, they're great. And you can go to the retail store. If you go to Rootmaker's website and you click on retail store, they have the trays, they have the pots, the fertilizer, pretty much everything that you want to do. If you want to play with this on a small scale at your house, or if you got a backyard nursery kind of like I do, you want to do something on a smaller scale, you can get the stuff that you want there, and it's very reasonably priced, and you get a 15% discount if you follow the code that I have down in the description. So anyway, I appreciate you watching. Please like, please subscribe. If you got any questions, leave them down in the bottom in the comments. Thank you. Bye.